of starts slow again with more adding to it as the intro keeps going and then pulling back again. So starting off, you just get simple stuff. You get some kind of chime, kind of bell things that you would probably kind of see in Nightwish type of thing. Just really bright sounding kind of chimey bell things. I think that's what they're called. Nice sound, really like that. Nice and bright sound. Once they go, they bring in dark male kind of opera singers. I think they're all male, the sound, so it's gone from like the bright kind of chime thing to the really dark depressing stuff, and then it gets very kind of bass heavy. There is also guitar there, but it's a very thick bass sound as well as thick guitar sound. Then it kind of opens up in this kind of thick kind of just a simple riff of bass and guitar. And then the keys kind of come in and they're extremely aggressive. It's one of them really kind of quick, kind of paced, kind of intense key stuff with the rest of the band. And then that kind of then leads into the verse, which is now just starting at the bottom and then works its way up. Kind of the natural flow of what Darkwater's kind of been doing. So even though it's progressive and there is a lot of layers, this is the thing. The songs do kind of have a similar kind of progression and layout. So starts kind of slow, bit of a kind of deeper voice, very kind of bass heavy, and then it kind of takes it to a higher register with the vocals and everything, and then the sound kind of opens up. The Tunisian kind of effect kind of comes in again with keys and everything in the second kind of part of the verse. Then the chorus kind of opens it up and everything. There is a real nice kind of fluidity flow throughout the chorus. It's a good kind of catchy kind of chorus, this one. The voice very kind of fluid and everything, still in that mid-high range register. Bit of higher registering at the end of this kind of chorus. It definitely kind of takes it a bit higher there. And yeah, so you do get your kind of evolutions and things. You still get a lot of different kind of key things. You got the Tunisian effects there. You do get your good kind of guitar riffs that kind of come in, out, and then, as I say, the keys are very heavy at some parts and do the kind of chime things and the Tunisian thing. So again, it kind of sounds like there's multiple keyboards going on, so even though things are quite simplistic and then some things are stripped back and then they wait to perform, everything is laid so much that it still kind of sounds like there's actually a fair bit going on and it's still simple. So because it's simple yet sounds very kind of complex, the way they've kind of structured everything is talent in itself, so very good with that. As for the solo of this song, starts with guitar, still kind of just the musical kind of simple kind of thing, no patterns really, followed, so everything is kind of its own thing. Around the mid-section nearer to the end, he incorporates a bit of a technical speed aspect. It's still nothing super intense, nothing that lasts overly long, where it stays at 12, just a bit of a flash and a bit of a flash there. Then it goes into the keyboard solo. The keyboard solo kind of follows that, kind of, natural musical groove that has been kind of flowed in with the guitar. After the keyboard solo is finished, though, there's this effect and kind of play that the keyboardist does. I don't know if he's dueling with the guitar, if it's just the keyboard alone, because after the keyboard, the guitar definitely kind of follows that same kind of traction and the guitar sounds a bit more intense. But it just sounds like there is an effect put into it, so I don't know exactly what it is, but you'll know it when you hear it. Basically, just as the second the keyboard solo finishes, there's this play with the keyboard, and then it follows with the guitar. And it's this really interesting kind of sound effect that they've put in, and then the way it plays, it's like fast and got energy to it, but it's just such a unique kind of sound. So I do like the sound of that whenever it comes in, with the key then leading to it being more prevalent with the guitar. Again, I don't know if it's dueling at all. I don't think so, just because the first part is definitely key and then the second guitar. So one volume may just be less than the other, so they kind of change it, or it's just not dueling at all. But it's a great effect. I really like that part. So again, a song with plenty of layers. It's a bit more of one of the kind of heavy ones. It's not as soft. So that is pretty much it for this track. A great sounding chorus, still kind of lays. It still follows a similar pattern of other things. You got that Tunisian sound in there, great vocals. The solos are both very kind of good, yet simple. Good melody, good kind of heavy riffs, good emphasis on the bass as well. As I said, most bands they kind of leave the bass out, so it's good to just kind of hear that in the music. So again, I really like that. So let's get into the next track, which is unfortunately not my favourite, and that track is called The Journey. So I'm not really going to talk much about this song just because I don't really like it as much, so therefore I'm just not as invested, therefore my mind's not as connected to this one. Because I've tried listening to it over and over again to seriously try and get into it, and it's really just not as good as the others, unfortunately, so I'm just not connecting with it, so it's not, things don't stick out to me, because I'm just struggling to really be invested. So with that, is it a bad song? No, not necessarily. There's still progressive elements to it, and it still has change-ups. It's just, I just don't think the flow's working. The problem with progressive music is you have to have multiple elements, and then each section always has to be as good as the last. You can't have parts of your song being absolute crap, and other parts being meh, and then other parts being great, and then the song's just a bloody mess. Everything has to be a consistency of great. So it is tricky, and then everything has to flow together. So what is the problem with this track? Why am I not really feeling it? Well, one, it could just personally be me. Others can probably appreciate this more than me, I'm sure of it. But for me, it's just the song just doesn't have as much change to it as the previous tracks. The other tracks, when the kind of song starts, there's the intro, which has a lot of kind of highs and it has a lot of lows. This one kind of always is just monotone kind of sounds and tempo and thing. Everything's just kind of same-ish level. And when it gets to the verse, they try something completely new. It is completely new. It's a different kind of singing style. Musically, they try and be different. So they've done something new, and I appreciate that, and I do, like that they do something new. Like, I encourage that kind of thought process. But it's this kind of creepy kind of singing style he's going for, and then it's like these keys, and it's like he's trying to do this creepy thing, and then it's like there's a pre-chorus where he tries to sound really creepy. There's a line where it says, "I was only playing with my," and then I think self, but no, it's my friends. Every time he says that, I keep thinking he is about to say I was only playing with myself. So there's that, which kind of pulls you out of the kind of creep factor and takes you into a whole new creep area. But anyway, so yeah, so the whole verse is this kind of creepy thing, and there are kind of two parts. You've got your first section and your second section, but the second section is like not this, kind of upping the ante kind of thing. And even when it hits the chorus, it's not risen. It's just like they just change the sound a little. You don't hear the sound increasing in level and then building into this massive kind of peak or anything. It's just like all the same kind of pacing and everything. It's just like there may be a key thing, or the key will have this different kind of key press here, and then the guitar, it'll just be odd. There's this odd string I'll add here, and it's just like I don't hear things being added. There's also a lot of really thick bass sounds, and I have appreciated it. I do like the thick bass sound, but it's just because it's so monotone, it's so mid-tempo, it's just dum 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 dum. It's just like that's not an intriguing beat, and it's not really a beautiful beat. You can have a slow beat, but it can still be connecting with the audience because there's a beauty to it. This is just this kind of creepy mid-tempo, fat, creepy sound. And it's just, there's nothing to connect with. There's no kind of highs and lows and source. It's not a journey of a musical journey, and it's not this emotional thing you can really connect to either, because they're going for a creep kind of thing. So I struggle. After the second chorus, it gets a bit heavier, and the song now goes into a different kind of area of just it being this kind of dark but heavier kind of thing. But even still, I'm not exactly connecting. The solo starts with the key, then it goes into the guitar. But the key follows a pattern 3 times, and the guitar follows the same pattern 3 times, and then it kind of leads into a guitar solo, which is actually not following a pattern than it does the key solo. So technically, the solo is really long, but is it irritating to just get that kind of similar pattern of just like, God, now it's just following a similar pattern and I'm bored. Then you get a solo which is, you know, nice, and so is the keys. Obviously it's nothing amazingly musical to keep you invested. You've had a very slow kind of song, and then you get a guitar solo and a key solo, which is interesting, but because there's no kind of a high peaks to it and nothing, no musically gifted about it, it doesn't work. Because with previous songs, you had an amazingly organised and structured song with solos of 2 different kinds, guitar and keyboard, and it'd be musical. So you kind of had your intensity in the song, and then this is giving you some kind of musical thing. And so now you just had a kind of bland kind of song, and then you get solos that are musical and not much going on. So it's still this kind of, there's just something missing with the song. There's no musicality, there's no real emotion. It's a structured song, but it's got no kind of feel, and it's got no highs and lows to it. And that's the problem I have with Journey, unfortunately. So let's get into the next track, and for people who are interested in a more of a heavy approach, you'll be glad to know that these last 3 tracks are actually getting back into that heavy vibe that the first track had. So these last 3 tracks are a lot heavier than pretty much the majority of all the previous tracks that have come beforehand. So if that's what you're into, then this is good for you guys. So Burdens is definitely one of the best songs. I absolutely love this song for a multitude of reasons. So first off, and first reason, how the song starts, it's just a clean guitar, and that is it. But it just sounds awesome. It's got a really beautiful, clean tone to it. It's got a really good flow to it as well, so what's being played, the kind of riff and everything, it's just amazing. It's just it's got dun 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 dun. So it's got kind of highs and lows, kind of to the mix of what he's doing, and then the voice as well, just with that first part of dun 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 dun, and then the last part dun dun. The voice has to flow like that as well, so. He has the dun 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 dun, and then he brings it up high for that dun 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 part. So just the simple guitar with just the nice kind of tone and everything, with the beautiful tone of the singer, and then the dun dun dun. Voice is doing a bit of a different register there. And just, the two of them just kind of flowing together. It's just a real beautiful kind of sound and everything, and it's a nice kind of pace. And then it just fades out into the actual kind of intro for the song, leading into the overall kind of sound of what the song is. So it's mostly the whole band and everything just does open kind of sound. You get the guitar lead actually coming in at some point, and this lead kind of persists through the song, so it's a really nice sounding guitar lead. And there's a bit of keys that kind of fade off the end, so whenever he does the lead and then he finishes, the key finishes, and then he'll come back over, and then it goes key back to him. And then it goes into the really kind of heavy guitar riff. It's really kind of aggressive, extremely aggressive, even for this band. So for this band it's aggressive, and even with other bands it is still pretty aggressive. And then it goes into what the verse is, which is mostly kind of just a bit of key, a bit of drum, and some pretty intense bass. So the bass is bomb, 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 quite intense and everything. You can seriously hear it, so for people who really like bass, it really comes through and everything and stands on its own. It's not really just blended with a guitar and just, you know, completely watered out of the overall mix. You definitely can hear the thing. A bit of clean guitar is in there as well, obviously the vocals and its kind of low register and everything. And then the second part, what do they do? The singer brings it up to a new level, and the band will bring in a bit more of an intense kind of key thing and everything, and the others will do something a bit more musical. It's a standard thing with Darkwater, even how the intro kind of started its hope, and then you've got your lead, and then it goes to the heavy riff, and it goes into the quiet verse. And then the verse is, you know, it's quiet, and then it tries to add a bit more flavour in and then bring the loudness up. So it's still natural kind of flow, but it's still what is being shown and everything, and the layers and everything. It's still amazing. The chorus is incredible because there is that lead over the top of it. It's an incredibly awesome sounding lead over the chorus. So the chorus is just this really amazing high energy, absolutely beautiful, and then that guitar lead adding more energy, more emotion, more beauty to the whole thing, just takes it to such a higher level. It just sounds absolutely incredible, and I would urge the band to kind of do this a bit more. Obviously not for every kind of song, because then it would become a bit kind of repetitive, but I definitely use it a bit more, because it definitely adds so much to the chorus. It elevates it and just adds more musical elements to it. So amazing, absolutely love the chorus, and the lead, incredible. The verse this time round, the instruments kind of change a few things, so there'd be a bit more of an emphasis on one instrument than there was on the last verse. So yeah, second verse is a bit more emphasis on one instrument, and the other instrument will take a bit of a backseat. Same with when it elevates as well. The voice obviously still elevates to the same kind of standard, but one instrument that was a bit more prominent in the last verse will take a bit of a backseat and let someone else take a bit of charge. So again, kind of follows in the same aspect that way. The chorus this time, there's a little bit of a play with the guitar, just da-na-na-na-na, that leads just into the chorus again. Nothing different about it, just still sounds incredible. The solo, there is a bit of play before the solo with the band and everything, and some really heavy riffs and everything. That clean first part of the song intro thing comes back again as well, so that's amazing. Just puts a calm to everything, and it's just halts the song, just a bit of relaxation, take a breath and everything, to then immediately come after that with that intense, heavy, really aggressive guitar riff. And then leading into the solo, again the solo follows a similar pattern again, just like the previous song, so that's a little disappointing, but that's not really the solo kind of follows after that. I don't really see the point of that first bit, but it's there. But the actual solo again, musical, doesn't really repeat anything, nothing overly complex or anything like that. But it's musical, it has a nice flow to it, just like all the others. It doesn't repeat anything, it's got a good tone to it, and it sounds nice. Same with the keys, and then the guitar will come back and then the key will come back, so they keep interchanging near at the end. So it's still a great solo. It's nothing, groundbreaking of a guitarist or a keyboardist, but they do what is needed to deliver a solid performance. That's what they do. And immediately after they finish with the solo, it just goes straight back into that chorus again. So there's great energy to this, because you've got the melody, and then you've got the melody later in the song near the middle, and then you've got the high energy, super soaring chorus. And then you've got the first part of the verse with that dun, real deep bass and everything, and then the really heightened voice for the second part of the verse, and everything, and then high keys and things. So it's a high energy song with great highs, like super highs with that chorus, and then the kind of great melodies of that kind of intro part, and then the second part of it in the middle of the song. So just great flow, and that probably should be a bit more in this album, because it's being a bit more of the flow of constant melody. So this one has a flow of melodies and mids and high energy stuff. So that's a bit more kind of interesting. I do still like the maturity of what the album has done, but obviously this kind of thing is a bit more kind of interesting if there's a bit more of this involved. So I'll just kind of state that, but I do appreciate an album dedicated to showing maturity, just as long as it's not overdone, in each album, because then it becomes, repetitive, and you kind of want to kind of change your sound from album to album and try new ideas and new approaches to songwriting. So I'm just saying, a bit more of music like this and everything mixed in with the rest would be better than just constant melody, but for this one album, just to show maturity and everything, perfectly fine. So let's get into the next song, which is called Turning Pages. So Turning Pages is a long track, around 9 minutes 47 seconds, so there is a fair bit to this track. The intro, as per usual, if the majority of the intro is on this album, starts quite kind of softly, just a gradual kind of introduction, and then the rest of the band kind of comes in, and then eventually you get to the point where you get very heavy guitars, intense keys and everything that get you to the verse, which again is basically just subtle kind of guitar with the kind of subtle vocals. So again, a pattern just like every other track, but again, everything that's done in the intro has like 3 different kind of parts to it until it hits the verse. All of the parts they play, even though it follows a similar pattern, they are all sounding different. It's not just a complete copy and paste. The verse, again, it starts one way and then it progresses, and like every other, it starts soft and it gets heavier and heavier. Same thing here, but obviously it does sound different. So the voice, again, sounds really great. The guitar sounds amazing. And then when it gets to a high register, the voice goes up. The chorus is actually a very long chorus. It has about 3 different sections to it, I think it's 3. So you got the first part, which everything's the kind of mid-range part, good kind of flow and everything, and then as it progresses, the vocals start opening up. He starts increasing his pitch and everything. So his voice gets brighter and brighter, and then nearer to the end of the chorus, the keys start becoming more of a kind of thing and everything. So it starts, getting a bit more anthemic. It's not, a massive increase. It just keeps adding layers. So it's not the end of it, even though there's more layers to it and the voice is higher. It's not a complete change compared to the first. Like if you take the first part of it and the second part, it's like it's like 2 completely separate choruses. They both are exactly the same. It's just the odd layering. And someone may complain, well, if it's basically there's 3 different sections, but basically all of them sound exactly the same, therefore it's not great songwriting. No, the chorus has to be its own thing, but just adding different layers, so there is actually a fair bit to the last part of the chorus, but it's still completely identified with the first part. I still think is a bit of technicality in of itself that they can change it twice and add so many layers that constantly keep it sounding near enough exactly like how it started. I think again is quite a feat. So great sounding start to it, and then it kind of increases with the vocals. He starts putting a bit more of the higher range to it, and the keys become more of a thing. So sounds amazing, and then leading back into the verse and everything, you get the kind of heavy keys, heavy guitar and everything. So as I said, these last 3 tracks are a bit heavier than the others. The solo for this track is probably the fastest solo it might be. It is pretty fast at the start, and then when the keys come in, the keys don't do their kind of heavy kind of fastness. It takes it in a different place. It does more of the kind of musical kind of aspect thing. But I think it's good, so it's not just bombing, just trying to be aggressive and fast and everything. We kind of got that with the guitar, a bit of fastness to it, a bit of aggression, and then the keys taking it to a more beautiful kind of place. So you get 2 kind of different concept solos. And obviously do keep changing, 2 complete changes because it's guitar and the keys. So it's good to just get that wider spectrum of things. So yeah, 9 minutes 47 minutes, a kind of heavy track, and a lot of elements to it again. They keep kind of changing it. Good solo. So really like this track. So getting on to the last track, it's Light of Dawn. So Light of Dawn again is a really, really good track. 9 minutes 9 seconds, so a fair bit to it, and because it's the last track, I would kind of say kind of go out on something incredibly beautiful or something just fun and energetic. Now they kind of gone for the latter, so this is kind of going out on a bit more of an energetic kind of thing, while kind of obviously sticking to the vibe of the album and the core sound. If it was like something incredibly, catchy, like poppy or something, it would kind of be a bit out of place and a bit ridiculous. So it's basically just, you know, a catchy, a bit more upbeat version of what the album is capable of, because you can't really go outside the confines of kind of, you know, sound and tone of an album. So basically the song kind of starts and you get leads with the guitar. So there's leads going on, there's kind of keys sounding quite bright and everything, so there's a bit of energy here and a bit of excitement with the leads and everything. Even as it starts fading out to do the kind of, you know, typical it starts soft thing, again, unfortunately, but, you know, not too bad. There's still a bit of the kind of guitar lead just as it kind of breaks that kind of intro to the verse. Still a bit of a guitar lead there. As for when it comes to the verse, the vocalist seriously is just holding on to each word instead of one word, just you know, let it kind of, you know, sound out, and then one word sounds out. So really kind of sounding out each kind of word and sticking just with the word and everything. So not a lot of lyrics going on. The music underneath is just keys, bit of guitar, and then it kind of increases, kind of bass comes in and everything. And then as for the chorus, again the vocal doing a bit more of a kind of high delivery, kind of like what Miles Kennedy would kind of do with Alter Bridge. The singer does have a bit of sound reminiscent of Miles Kennedy. Obviously he's not doing an exact clone of the voice, he just has a very kind of similar voice to his, so he's probably in the kind of same range and everything, can probably do what Miles Kennedy kind of does with his voice. But obviously this guy does have his own unique voice, it would be weird if he sounded exactly the same. But you can definitely hear he has a bit of Miles Kennedy to him, so of course he has a bit of a high register to him. There's a guitar lead going on. And the second verse around, there's more prevalent kind of heavy guitar, heavy bass and everything. And then it changes again, so nothing's sounding the same as the same verse, everything's now new. They bring even more key, more aggression in, and then the chorus again. There's a massive musical kind of interlude after that, with soft piano parts and then the bass part, guitar parts. The solo comes in with guitar keys, and there's like a interlude, and the solo comes back again. So there's a massive mid-section kind of musical interludes as well as like solos. So there is a few solos going on. There's like one there, key there, break, then key, then guitar. You get a bit there, and then after the solos, it kind of fades out, and then it kind of sounds like the song's coming to an end. So it's like just a bit of kind of keys, a bit of light guitar and everything. But then it, you know, shifts into the chorus for a final time, rounding out the song. So a lot of change up, nothing remaining the same, as well as it being high energy. So definitely a lot of excitement to this song, and nothing being repeated. So everything is, you know, new, fresh, engaging, and then you got the leads and everything. You got the massive kind of interludes and changes of that, and then big, you know, solo parts. So that is basically it for the album. So now it's into the sum up and the score. So, to summarise the album, obviously, it's probably sounding like I've really liked it, and that is the case. I really do like this album. So, let's just get negatives out of the way, seeing that for the overall, you know, consensus is I've been very pleased with every track and everything. So, seeing that that's been the consensus and the kind of vibe that's been throughout the review, let's not keep that going, let's go to a bit of a negative. So, negative, there's one track I don't really care for, which is The Journey. So, out of 10 tracks, I only dislike one. Not overly dislike, I still listen to it. It's just, it really does not match up to any of the others. It's not really in the same league. So, it's just, and that is basically it. So, that's a disappointment with that. As for getting into the album, obviously, as I stated in the first part of this review, this band, because it's progressive and everything, and they have long songs and a lot of changing parts and everything, and it's very mature. It doesn't have, you know, that kind of fun factor of, you know, being very heavy with high energy, and it's super catchy and it's fun and it's bright. It can be moody at times, and it's very slow, and it's you know, very quiet, and it's melodic, and that is basically the whole album. It's just massive areas of just a slow melodic song, and it doesn't really go to anything catchy, and then it can be moody and it can be dark. It can have its higher elements, but it's basically it's a bit of energy to just focus on listening out for it. Because when I first came into this album, it was basically just listening to a live part two. It's just like your mind kind of just goes to, oh, I just want something fun. So when you kind of just sit down to a new band and you don't really have any connection to them and you're not really interested, it's just you want something to really stand out and just be exciting. And because this album doesn't have much in the way of that, you don't really want to sit down. So there's not that mind frame of, oh, I need to sit down, I really need to get into the album, listen to it over and over again. So because of that, a lot of people are not really going to get into it because they're not really going to give it its time. They're not really going to sit down, listen to it, and kind of dissect it, and then try and like feel with it, get into that frame of mind, just to appreciate the simplicity of the album. So that is kind of a negative because it's hard to get into. It's not really easily approachable. So that is a problem. But other than that, that is all the negatives. The Journey, I wasn't too into that song. And the album is very difficult to get into. And because it's always melodic and it does kind of follow a similar pattern each song with how... So even though it's progressive, it does follow the same pattern of, okay, start this way and then the intro will build up and then it will come back down for a soft verse, then it will build and then the big chorus and then it goes back down to soft. And they do kind of follow that a fair bit. And solo-wise and everything, the band, nothing is overly technical and super impressive. So that, again, is kind of a negative. But then focusing on the positives now, even though it's simple, all the music, there are so many layers for the instruments and positioning and then constantly changing tones. So the keyboardists still have multiple kind of sound effects and they'll keep changing it throughout the song, so it's like different keys are being played, and then there's orchestrations and there's strings, and then the vocalist is absolutely incredible. The bass always does its own thing for the most part. It never really follows in line with the guitar, so you'll hear the guitar do its own thing and the bass do its own thing, so you get different standouts of that. And then you get beautiful melodies, and then you get some kind of more catchy things. You do get your kind of good musical lead. So it's a very musical album. It's very mature. It's a nice album just to sit down, just not have anything bombard you with intensity, not have something amazingly technical in your face. It's just you can sit down, you can just appreciate it for what it is, which is a very complex album, but it is also simple. But because of how they've layered everything and how they keep approaching the songs and adding so many different elements, and then one song, it's got multiple verses, multiple choruses, and then multiple like key sounds and guitars, and then the bass is always prominent, which you don't really get in bands. And then great vocalist that has a lot of range through the album, and then has massive different ranges in just one song. And then it's not like this one song has not even shown all of him, that there's so much range and stuff that he has on offer. So it's simple, but also very complex to actually digest everything they actually put over. So if you give it its time, then can get into that mindset, you should easily kind of see just the complexity and everything on offer and just how brilliant it is. But also I do kind of have to score it for basically it's a very melodic album, so even though it is a mature album, I do have to kind of give it a score based on basically the limitation of everything is very melodic and there's not a lot of heaviness to it. And the simplicity of the band, I do kind of have to score for that, even though the simplicity is something I really like, that they showed simplicity and how complex a simple playing can actually be. And then the layering and the way they've actually approached it, they've made it complex. So even though it kind of takes the score down, it also gives the score up in contrast between them. Yes, they play simple, but in doing so they have approached the song and made that complex. So it's like I've scored down for it, but then I score up for the way they've done it. So scoring is a little weird with this one, but I would probably give it an 8, but not just an 8. It's deserving more of that. So whereabouts it would be probably an 8.4. I don't think it really does good enough to get in the mids of the 8s, just because I do think it's going to be very hard for people to get into this album, unfortunately. So I can't really go to 8.5, which I think is a good consensus of a really solid album and everything's achieved. And then upwards from that, you get into the really good stuff. Yeah, it's simple in areas. There are great solos, but not overly complex. But there is so much on offer. So everything they have, the bass, the vocals, the guitars, and the keys, they do everything they can just to give so much variation and so much complexity with the way the song progresses and everything. It is pretty intense. And then it's all melodic and mature and everything, but there's so many ranges to it. So it's incredible, but obviously that gets all the way to the 8.4 and everything. And if everyone could really actually get into this, if everyone did have the mind frame which they could actually listen to this album and be like, yeah, I get it and I enjoy it, it would score higher for that. It would seriously score higher if everyone could actually get into it. But because people, I don't think, will, it has to be an 8.4, unfortunately, because of that simplicity and just how big the songs are and so much going on. It'll be hard to kind of get into it and then start memorizing how the songs go, so you can actually, instead of like I'm struggling to kind of keep flowing with this album, when you've listened to it multiple times and then you know how it goes and everything, you can actually not completely focus on it. You can relax and then start appreciating what is being put forward. So 8.4, really like this album, and it's got a lot of great elements to it. But for people who just want something just upbeat, fast, intense and fun, this really isn't for you. But if you appreciate simple things and you know, just music, if you have an appreciation for simple things and structuring of songs and how it can be complex and everything, and layering and you know, just good music, writing and composing, and appreciate the melody of music and things, you should appreciate this and really like it. So yeah, it's a difficult album because people who have an ear for this will really, really love this album, and people who just don't have an ear for this and really like something a bit with a bit more energy and heaviness are just not gonna like it and just think this is very, very, very trash and just like everything's melodic and there's no differentiation in sound. They won't have the ear to just appreciate all the different melodies. So it's an album that's going to be loved or hated. That is kind of the thing with this album. You're going to love it or you're going to hate it. I don't think there's going to be that much in the way of a middle ground. That's going to be one of the more kind of rarer kind of ballpark areas for this album. So that is it. Amazing album. A lot of stuff going on for it, a lot of complexity to it, and even though all of them don't do anything intense, they seriously use everything they have to such variations and things. It's just amazing. So I recommend this album, seriously, it's amazing. So that's it from me with an 8.4. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be. I'll see you then.